I
Thin
thought you might
Lizzy,
have
John
touched
Fife.
on Gary Moore because you're going on about Jimi Hendrix and Gary Moore, and Gary Moore was too technical for me. It was too clean, where Jimi Hendrix was always more dirty and just improvised and everything like that. And I prefer that sort of music where I always thought Gary Moore was just too perfect, and I don't like things too perfect, which I think that's where my love of different sorts of heavy metal and thrash metal comes in because it's not perfect, it's raw, it's out there, you know. And I think that's why I like people like Jimi Hendrix and um, Rory Gallagher. He's another one
Yeah,
that
Rory
wasn't
Gallagher, another brilliant
oh,
player.
fabulous. And
But
then you go to Gary Moore, beautiful music. It's just too clean. It's
well,
you know,
these are different. These are different. This is like different flavors of pizza. You know, it's like some
yeah,
people like white pizza with no sauce on it. I'm like, no thanks, but you can have it if that's what they like and they call that pizza. Great, let them have it. But and some people want like some kind of pizza with broccoli and cauliflower. I'm like no thanks.
no,
Pineapple and ham. Maybe the pineapple. I ain't eating the meat. I don't need a roadkill pizza. You know, that's not for me. But all I'm saying is that everybody has different tastes, right? It's different.
yeah,
It's all subjective. It doesn't make it objective. It makes it subjective. And it doesn't make you right or wrong. You know, it's
no.
what's right for you, right? And that's the problem. It's like people think that their way is the right way and everybody else is wrong. But
Yeah,
it's
I
not like
agree.
that.
I
It's like
agree with you to a certain degree. Me and my lady, she's Brian Johnson and Bon Scott through and through. And I'm sorry, but I'm right.
so. You're saying that you like which one?
She likes Brian Johnson and Bon Scott, you know, and there's only one Bon Scott, so
Well, that's a tough battle, and I think that's the kind of battle or comparison that happens in a lot of bands where it's a different band, you know, really.
yeah, yeah,
ACDC was on their was on death's door after Bon Scott passed. I mean,
yeah,
they were already a band that was up, you know, shooting up like a star, and
yeah,
they already had done some great things already, and they had established themselves, and bands and fans loved them. And I remember ACDC because when I say that, what I'm trying to refer to is I had an ex that I was, you know, as a teenager. You know, we're talking like I was 16 years old, and she was older than
yeah.
me, and I was dating her. And she worked for Lieber Krebs, the manager for ACDC. And she got these albums on vinyl and cassettes. And so she brought them home to me and said, here, have some vinyl, have some cassettes. Very, very kind of her, you know. And I got all kinds of demo tapes. I mean, I could go on and on about this, but I won't. But as far as ACDC, I had the Live in Atlantic Studios, a promo copy, 1974 or five, whatever it was, Live in Atlantic Studios, and it's like, you know, like this was a promotional copy only. I got a bunch of those kind of albums, and for me, it was like, wow, I love this band. They were really bluesy. They were kind of metal almost, but they're this bluesy hard rock attitude, and I just loved the lyrics. The songs were brilliant, and it was more basic. You know, it was not Judas Priest. It was not as technical. It was more blues. It was more Chuck Berry meets Little Richard meets, you know, rock and roll, the old
Yeah.
style rock and roll. So to me, I just love that. You know, Bad Boy Boogie and all that. Incredible. I just, but that's a sound that Bon Scott really was, I think, representative of his sound. And to me, I relate really well to that. But there's no denying, and I was there for the two tours, Back in Black. I saw when Brian Johnson first joined the band at the New York Palladium downtown. And then I also saw For Those About to Rock in the
Yeah.
Meadowlands. And I went there with a good friend of mine, Steve Johnstad. They call him Zeus. He was a singer from the band called Mayday. Mayday was a band that originally was called Sun. First S-U-N, then they became S-O-N. But Mayday was signed to A&M Records. They had an album in 1982. And they had some great, great songs, great melodic rock, hard rock.
Yeah.
And Steve, I used to see him at CBGB, so I'd walk in and, you know, go see the band. He was doing a handstand on the bass drum back in the 70s. And he sang like Robert Plant. It was that kind of a thing, like Glenn Hughes meets Robert Plant kind of a sound. And I'm like, so I had some influences from New York, and I had another guy named Nicky Buzz. He had a band called The Bullets, but it was a three-piece band. And the crazy story about Nicky, and I met up with him not in the last 15 years in Germany. I saw Nicky.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Netherlands. That's where he lives. So I went and saw him, but he came to my show, and I was like, wow, because someone that I really looked up to. So Nicky is this black dude, and he had this Flying V guitar, and he had a three-piece band, and I was 15 years old in the rehearsal room, and he was playing hammer-ons, he was playing like this AC/DC vibe, but he was shredding the hell out of it and singing really high, hard stuff and great songs. And I was just blown away by this band. It was like, holy shit, like I had a band back then, a band called The New Race, my first band, and I'm like I was sitting in the rehearsal room like, oh my God, these guys are phenomenal. How are we going to ever get to this level? Like, oh my God, it was eye-opening. It was mind-blowing. It was like, oh my God, and I've seen other bands, blow my mind as well. But this was like in person and sitting in the rehearsal room with a boombox recording it. So we had the tape of it afterwards. I made a tape years later and put it on a CD and sent it over to Nicky, and he's like, I don't care about that. But I cared about it because it influenced me greatly. It was like such a amazing, people move on in their lives. But for me, I just loved what he did, and his playing was excellent, and the songs were incredible. They had great lyrics, great hooks. And if you want to know what I'm even talking about, because people are probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? Go check out this album. It's called Vendetta. It was on Epic Records, and it has like a jackhammer and the name Vendetta chiseled into the sidewalk. You could probably pull it up on one of the services. I would buy the album personally, and because that's what I do. I'm still one of those guys. I don't deal with any of this streaming crap. It's not for me. I don't care if that's what they do now. I'm old school, and that's the way I'm old school. I just I prefer it. I prefer to have a record album, a CD, or a tape or something. I don't want a USB drive with a logo on it. I don't need that. But
I'm exactly the same. I love my vinyl. Absolutely love my vinyl. Yeah, you can't beat it.
Maybe people don't agree with it, then they don't have to. Like that's just where I'm coming from.
Have you any tours or anything coming up? I
just completed touring over in Brazil.
Yeah.
In fact, this is the show right here. We went and played. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Fistful of Metal Alive. We played over there in Sao Paulo, Manifesto Bar.
Yeah.
And I did a tour in 2024. I played in Latin America as well, Argentina, Bolivia, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, all for the first time. And this year I went back to Brazil. I played there in 2023. We had a sold-out show at the Jai Club, and also played a tour. We played a festival in Minas Gerais, Brazil, and we also played in Espírito Santo, which is by the coast. So we had a tour over there. Then I recently, in 2025, I did a tour in Canada. Yeah. So we just played over in Montreal, which was amazing, and Toronto, incredible shows, and also Ottawa. So we had we've been playing around the world. I've been playing in California, doing a thing with Robert Sarzo and a great group of guys playing it backstage at Larson's restaurant. It's a very high-end steakhouse. Basically, they're, basically a Michelin level steakhouse. Incredible food, incredible ambiance, incredible place. And what's ironic about playing there is, I'm playing there, and I think Wendy Dio has come to see the band 3 or 4 times already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. So the pressure's on, because I've been singing these Ronnie songs, and, like if you're singing these songs by Ronnie James Dio, it's one thing. But when you got to sing them in front of Wendy Dio, it's like, well, hope you do a good job. You know, you better
Yeah.
bring your A game, because it's like, you know. But she's a lovely person, and it's great, you know, great to have her come to these
Yeah.
shows. And I mean, it's a nice environment. And we have you know, there's other people that come to the shows too. And in the band, you know, you have some of the Dio disciples. I mean, you have you know, we play with Simon Wright
Hmm.
from AC/DC, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
and also Dio, and also Sean McNabb on bass, Robert Sarzo,
Yeah.
Rudy Sarzo's brother, and also from Hurricane, also from you know, Jeff Tate's band, Queensryche
Yeah.
Jeff Tate, and you know, Robert is quite a interesting and amazing guitar player himself, because you know, Robert was actually hired by Ozzy Osbourne after Randy Rhoads passed away. So he
Wow.
was hired to be the guitar player in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
but I guess Don Arden, was it Don Arden or somebody was involved with? I would imagine it was probably him. They already had paid Bernie Torme and hired him
Yeah.
in Britain. So it was kind of a situation where they hired one guy here and they hired one guy
That's not the
here,
other one.
but the record label trumped, you know, the management trumped
Yeah.
what Ozzy was doing with Sharon or
Yeah.
whatever in the U.S. So I guess that's where the balance of power went. It went to Bernie. But I think
Yeah.
Robert would have done a fantastic job, because, you know, in playing with him and getting the chance to know how he plays, and getting to, you know, feel the vibe of how he approaches it, he would have been actually a great fit for
Yeah.
Ozzy. He would have really done a great job. He's got the technique, he's got the ability. You know, I never knew he could even play like he plays. Like, and I've known him since 1985 when I came out to
Yeah.
California. So it's amazing. And when he plays the Randy Rhoads stuff, it's immaculate. Like, he knows the stuff. He knew it, you know, very early on. He learned that stuff. I mean, he knew Randy Rhoads. He knew, you know, Rudy was in the band. So
Yeah.
his brother.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible thing to have that opportunity. And then, of course, on keyboards, you know, we were playing with Teddy Andreadis from GNR,
Yeah.
and also playing with Mike Mangan from the Cult and Glenn Hughes band.
Mhm.
So, and then also Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. So I guess it doesn't suck to play with you know, great people like that, and you know, we're playing cover songs and such, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, more eclectic songs. We're playing some of the hard rock, some of the heavy metal, and also some R&B, rock and soul type songs. So for
Yeah.
me, as I was saying, that's really where I differentiate myself, because I sing the hard rock and the heavy metal, but I also sing full on R&B. I mean, I'm full on, you
Yeah.
know, I'll sing Otis Redding, you know, I'll sing blues, I'll sing, you know, Memphis blues, you know, Memphis soul,
Yeah.
you know, Sam and Dave, Otis Redding, you know, Al Green, you know, soul music, Luther Vandross. I mean, I could sing that stuff because I've studied it. I've gone deep, because
Yeah.
I didn't have always that flow in that area, but it's something I worked a lot at. But I appreciate the music. I grew up with Motown and with Memphis soul and with even the Northern soul from
Yeah.
Britain.
Yeah. It sounds interesting. You're going to be bringing it over to Britain next year and Europe.
Well, you know, I'd love to, but it's all about go where the love is. You know, what does that mean? Well, you know, if there's a promoter that wants to, you know, make it happen, I mean, everyone looks to me like, you know, yeah, well, you're a spaceman. Why don't you go up on the moon again? Yeah, well, you know, someone's got to provide the transportation and
Yeah.
the way to get there. Like, yeah, if you got a space program, we'll go to the moon. But if you don't have a rocket ship and there's no equipment, you know, there's no budget, like, what do you want me to do? Like, just go to the moon? Well, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say for me, playing again for a second time in Brazil, that was great for me to come back
Yeah.
to Brazil and to go to Canada on my own as a, you know, independent artist, touring on my own. I was there with not another band. I mean, I had great support from a band called Drowning in Blood. They're
Yeah.
an excellent band from Canada, young guys and fantastic. And we played shows with other bands there as well. They supported us, and the shows were great. And to me, that's what it's about. It's like the passion, but I can go and sing. I just did a gig with Robert Sarzo duo. We played in San Pedro, and it wasn't a big gig, but it was a nice little place. And we played, it was Sarzo Turbin rock revival. So we're doing some of the R&B stuff, some of the rock stuff, some of the more mainstream rock or R&B, and I can shift those gears, no problem. It's like,
Yeah.
but what I don't like to do is I don't like to mix and match. I'm not looking to put on a thrash metal show and then do R&B songs. Like sometimes people say, hey, come in, because I also had a band that I was working with doing Rainbow and Deep Purple. So there's a lot of different singers in those bands.
Yeah.
But I would do that, and what I don't like doing is doing that music, singing Ronnie songs, singing Glenn Hughes, Graham Bonnet, Jolan Turner, Ian Gillan, and some of the other singers, even Tony Martin. Well, Tony Martin's not in that, but then it's kind of related to the Black Sabbath family.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it keeps going, right? If you want to talk about the family tree, but anyway, I don't like to do those kind of songs and then say, okay, well, they want me to sing Anthrax songs, like my songs that I wrote, Metal Thrashing Mad or something, or Death Rider or Panic or whatever. I don't really want to sing that at a Deep Purple or Rainbow show. And you have keyboards, and it's like either we go this way or we go that way. It's kind of like either we're having pizza or we're having ice cream. I don't want ice cream pizza. And I don't want pizza ice cream. I want one direction or the other. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm weird, but that's just the way I see it. And I think that people can want to hear that, but it needs to be a different show, like a different. And I think by keeping things special like that, you can focus on, like if I'm going to sing rock and soul, that's what I'm going to sing. I'll sing Bob Seger. And I do some Thin Lizzy songs that way. I love to do. There's softer songs, there's heavier songs, and there's ones that were done, that were heavy and they made it softer. There's some really brilliant songwriting there. So I love doing that. And then, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Stevie Winwood, there's all kinds of, just deep songs to go from. And then even some mainstream ones or vintage classic standards, Nina Simone or, Sam and Dave or some of this older stuff. So it's pretty cool. And then what I'll also touch on is even modern pop soul, even singers like Guy Sebastian from a more modern generation, even a singer like Adele. I do acoustic songs like that, Alicia Keys. I can go into that mode, but for me, that's not going to impress someone that wants to talk about heavy metal or wants to know about that. So I know better than to even want to talk about that, so I mentioned it. But the idea is that my passion for heavy metal, it's not changed, it's not gone away. It's just that just because you can play, just because you play guitar doesn't mean you can't play harmonica on some other songs. But if you're a guitar player and you play harmonica, you're probably not going to be playing harmonica on the super heavy metal songs, because that's not really a match, right? That instrument is, not really like, you might hear it on the Wizard for Black Sabbath, but it's not like on every Black Sabbath song. And I think the only reason the harmonica was even on some of those songs, like with Led Zeppelin or with Black Sabbath, is because the harp is kind of more of a blues instrument. It works more in the blues, right? And in some rock songs like Stevie Wonder, it works. If you can make it work, I think it's great to bring in some of these other instruments. Because I really like bands like the UK band Thunder. They incorporated horns into some of their songs. They have harmonica in some of their songs. They've got piano. They've got organ. To me, I really love that. And I think that really works great in that style of music, in that hard rock or melodic style. But when it comes to the heavy metal stuff and you start thinking about heavier bands, you're just not going to really, I guess with Metallica where they are today and their songwriting, I guess you could imagine something that could have some of those instruments. But if you look at early Metallica, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, no chance. And the same thing for, other bands that are heavy like that. But I think when you start going into that Bruce Dickinson mode, where you have more of the power metal,
Yeah.
the Ed guys and the some of these other European power metal bands, yeah, you got the keyboards in there. Yeah, you got the.
Yeah.
I like to have horns. I like, I work with Scott Page is also part of the backstage at Larson's. Scott played with Supertramp with Pink Floyd, and he's
Yeah.
amazing sax player, horn player, and incredible. And having that opportunity to have, a saxophone, I love that. It's a great instrument, and I love having that opens up the door for songs that have saxophone. Thin Lizzy got songs with saxophone, right? Dancing in the Moonlight.
Exactly.
So to me, I love
Yeah.
that, and I love Thin Lizzy. So that opens up the opportunity. Like, hey, why don't we try Dancing in the Moonlight? Wouldn't that be cool? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So musically, it's really exciting to be able to go into those places. And people today with music, I think they listen to things they're used to. They want to hear the same old shit that they're accustomed to.
Yeah.
That's why the same cover band, tribute band is playing the same Led Zeppelin songs for the last 150,000 years. I mean, okay, we're going to see a Led Zeppelin tribute. Well, I love Led Zeppelin, but it's like, I kind of burnt out on Led Zeppelin in the 70s. I mean, I heard it so much in the 80s. By the 80s, I was like on to other things. Same thing with the Beatles, like I heard it so much, like I got to hear something else. I got to, I'm sure you probably feel the same way about certain music that you heard on the radio back in the day, and it's like, oh God,
Yeah.
please don't play "Stairway to Heaven" again. Please don't play this Journey song again on the radio.
Iron Maiden, Can I Play with Madness? I, it's ruined the song for me because of how often it is played. It's just one I can't listen to anymore.
And you know what the irony of that is? When you hear it that many times, like you might think that it's torture sometimes to hear certain songs over and over, like Madonna. You got to hear it over and over on the radio. But actually, as a artist trying to learn the song, if you're trying to learn something difficult that has tricky lyrics, that has a lot of detail in it, actually you need to hear it like that. You actually will subject yourself to listening to a song 500 times in a row, 1,000 times. Like I said, if you want to master something, you have to be an expert before you can change it. If you don't master the song, if you don't know how that song goes by memory precisely and get it right, not fuck it up, but get it super on point, then you can start saying, okay, well, can I change it? But don't try to change Highway to Hell, because it ain't going to work.
No.
I mean, that song is like, maybe someone could do it, but some things you're better off leaving it alone. Like you could sing the song, but don't try to change it. It's got the Bon Scott vibe on it. It's just, I'm sure it's possible. And they have this this crazy software or whatever it is. I don't know if it's it's AI or something. It's this thing called fake music. I don't know if you've heard that, but they'll take a song like "Can I Play with Madness" and they'll turn it into like a disco song.
Oh.
And I mean, stupid stuff like that. But legitimately, it's like, wow, this is kind of cool,
Yeah.
And they do it with a lot of different songs, so it's kind of cool. But it's like, I'm not worried about AI in that respect. I mean, as an artist, they're never going to come up with the ideas that I have. But
No, exactly.
they can certainly, there's certainly a level of AI that can, come up with some interesting things. It gives you ideas, and some folks that I've talked to already that are musicians and composers, they're saying, oh, well, I listen to it on AI. They get their ideas from AI. So they're cheating. They're taking AI and they're using it to influence their writing. So I think there's a lot of people that are doing that. They're just fucking lazy asses, and they just take these songs and they'll get it, they'll steal it from AI. They're letting AI do the work, the lifting. I don't need that shit. I'll do it myself. I come up with the ideas that I come up with. I have melodies in my head. I'm not gonna tarnish. I'm not gonna pollute that process. I don't need to go to AI to come up with an idea. I just don't need to do that. Now, would I ever do something with AI? Sure. I would check it out. But I think AI is not our friend. AI is there to replace humans. It's there to replace the human race. So it'll be the end of us. Okay, that's AI. Whenever they say AI, that means they're trying to kill us, because that's all it's going to do.
It's scary what's happening, to be fair.
It's just going to replace people, period.
Yeah.
And it's not maybe, it's coming. And
Oh yeah.
and it's unfortunate. And who knows what the real true history of this planet is? They probably had AI before, and it probably helped to be the demise
Yeah.
of previous generations, whether it be on this planet or other ones. So
Yeah.
I think that AI is not even from here. I think it comes from some more advanced place,
Yeah.
and it's eerily similar to the movie Terminator, isn't it?
It is. It's
Or the
very, very
movie,
worrying.
or the movie with Lemmy called Hardware. You ever seen that
Right.
one?
No,
Have
I've
you ever
not
seen
seen
that?
that one.
You
No.
might want to look at that. That's a pretty crazy movie too.
Yeah.
Similar
I
to
remember
Terminator.
it. I remember Eat the Rich with Lemmy, but
Yeah. So for me, I just see myself as someone who has a great passion for music, and I'm not trying to compete with others. I'm not trying to. I don't see myself competing with any of the bands that I've been with, and I've played with more than one.
yeah.
I'm not trying to. That's not even my interest. I mean, my interest as an artist and as a singer and as a performer, as a writer, is to create and to do things that are inspiring, that lift people
Yeah.
up. To me, it's like what BB King said to me, from here to here.
Yeah.
Because I asked him a question. I said, "Tell me, Mr. BB, I saw you on New Year's Eve, 1999. I was right there on his tour bus. I was right there on the side of the stage. My friend was interviewing before I was ever thinking about doing interviews. And I've done hundreds of interviews with people. The last interviews I did, by the way, Dale, Geezer Butler, Nuno Betancourt, George Thorogood, Fred Corey, and Dino Jalusic. Those were the last 5 interviews I did. And so I guess that means something, but I loved having the opportunity to speak with these great people, and very interesting
I
to
have
learn.
seen that you've spoke to Bruce Dickinson as well.
I have
You
not.
spoke.
I've never met
Sorry.
Bruce Dickinson.
No.
I came across Bruce Dickinson one time, and that was backstage at the Palladium, and
Right.
I think it was Yngwie concert in 1985.
Yeah.
I think it was at Yngwie, and he was walking upstairs where the backstage was for the artists, and I was backstage because I knew, some promoters and stuff. So and this is in '85 when I first came to California, but that's where Bruce Dickinson was, and I was like amazed that I'm like looking down, like, wow, man, Bruce is not that tall. Like he's like Ronnie Dio size or something. I don't know. It's kind of, I was blown away. I'm like, wow, this is like, I never got to meet him though, but I love Bruce Dickinson. I think he's fantastic performer, artist, singer, does
Yeah.
amazing things. Pilot, I mean, he does so many things. And then I know some of his band guys. So I'm friendly with Dave Chili Moreno, drummer, who I've
Yeah.
known for quite a while. Great guy, great drummer. Played with him before. And also Chris, the clerk,
Mm.
on guitar in his band. So, it's kind of a great thing to know these great people. And it's just much respect for what Bruce does. And, he's not a teenager either. He's been doing it a long time. So,
Yeah.
it takes a lot, even if you're a very successful person, to go push yourself out there on stage, to have to live your life in the front page of the media,
Well, he's a very fit guy as well because he fences as well on Commonwealth level, and he does a lot of things. He's a very fit guy. We are coming to the end of the interview, I'm
Sure,
afraid, but I
sure,
have got one question, and
sure.
it's my
Ask away.
my beautiful lady Tracy. She asks a question which I've asked on practically every interview, and that's
Sure.
tell me something about you we don't know.
Well, um, let's see what I want to share that'll be interesting. So, what you don't know about me is that I like to dig into the details of the truth of information.
Right?
So, to me, there's things that we've been told. Is that the truth?
Hmm.
Or is what your parents told you the truth? What your teacher told you the truth? some people don't want to know the truth. Okay, some people, they want to know what's a convenient, something for
Yeah.
convenience. But the truth is inconvenient sometimes, many times, and sometimes it's downright brutal. And so knowing the truth, it's something that really, um, it's painful, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
not in your case, Dale, but in some people's case, their wife cheated on them.
Yeah.
And not only did their wife cheat on them, but they cheated on that person with their best friend.
Yeah.
And not only did they cheat, not only did their wife cheat on them with their best friend, they cheated on them in their bed, in the house where their children are.
Mm.
And should I keep going? Because it's pretty brutal. And that's just one
Yeah.
little scenario. And I can think of someone. I can think of someone where this is a reality. It's true.
Yeah.
And that's really sad. It's
Mm.
really heartbreaking. But, you know, so to understand the problem and the outcome, you got to look at yourself and say, why did I marry this person?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't vet this person properly. Like, if this person would be this disloyal and do this callous type of stuff, you know, why'd they get married in the first place? And what
Yeah.
to do that? But I bring up that conundrum, that scenario, because it's kind of like, what do you want to believe? Where do you get your information from? I think there's a lot of deep information to know. And I think that you have to really use the word discernment. You have to really understand, like, are you getting your information from television?
Yeah.
Because I like to know, like, the etymology of words. I like to follow the deep meaning of things. I look at things like archaeology and ancient writings and try to understand, like, where did this come from? What was the intent? And
Yeah.
and what's the, you know, as a writer, as a, you know, person who's written a song called Death Rider that was about Greek mythology, about Pegasus, you know,
Yeah.
riding hard high in the saddle, a winged steed of unwearying flight. So, I mean, this goes very deep, because for me, it had a profound impact. You know, when I was a child, you know, the Greek
Yeah.
mythology. So I was always interested, and I was always interested in the pantheon of the Greek gods and the mythology
Yeah.
of these Greek gods, and then the parallel of these Greek gods. You know, it's like an overlay of names. Like, you have these names, and then you have these other gods and other belief systems, but they're so similar. Like, for example, you have, I'm just trying to think of the second name. Like, what you have is you have these names, this naming convention, where they changed
Yeah.
the name in antiquity, in history. They changed the names.
Yeah.
Now, there was a television show that they had back in the, I don't know, the 70s, and it was Detective Friday. It was Joe Friday. It was a detective. It was Dragnet. It was, you know,
Okay.
with the
Yeah.
TV
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
And they said the names may have been changed to protect the innocent. That was
Yeah.
one of the things they said on that kind of
Yeah. Right at the beginning. Yeah.
You've heard that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the names may have been changed to protect the innocent. Well, yeah, not only on Dragnet did they change the names to protect the innocent, but they changed the names of some very instrumental people in the creation of our world. Okay? Like, really, they changed the names.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, the name Jesus. That's not his real name,
No.
because they didn't even have a J in the alphabet
Right.
2,000 years ago. So how could his name be Jesus if they didn't even have a J? But that's what people call him.
Yeah.
I mean, his name is Yeshua, right?
Right.
But they call him Jesus. So I'm just trying to understand. You know, I'm not trying to judge people. I'm just trying to figure it out. But his name would be Iesus. the I.
Mm.
There was no Jesus. There's no J. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not making this shit up. This is the story. This is the reality. So why is it that you have biblical folks that are from history, like Noah? You heard of Noah and Noah's Ark?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What wasn't his name?
Right.
Why is his name Ziazudra? That's his real name.
Okay.
So I can keep going, but I won't. But I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I like to know the origins. I like to know the truth. I'm not interested in knowing lies and deceit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of lies and deceit going on, but I'm just not interested in that. And I'm not. I mean, I pick up on this stuff. I'm very sensitive to this information, so I want to understand. So one of the things I really like to understand is historically what really happened in history, not what they're feeding you, not what's being fed to you. Because here's another thing. I can get into that, but I won't. They changed the frequency of music, okay? From A432 megahertz to A440. Okay, this was done by people that were in control of society to be able to do that. And they did this back in the 1920s, I believe, or 30s. It was done like a really long time ago. And there was France was totally against it. There was people in France that were totally against it. They removed those people from having any say-so in the matter. And it was, part political, part, a ruling class that was part of this process. But they changed the frequency from the frequency that the Earth resonates and vibrates on, which is 432 hertz,
Right.
to 440, which is a chaos frequency. So 432 is a healing frequency, 440 is a chaos frequency. So they changed that. To me, that's, a red flag. All those great classical composers, both Beethoven, Mozart, Brahms, Bach, Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, Chopin, Paganini. I mean, all these Vivaldi, all these amazing composers. I can keep going on that. Amazing music. Such incredible music. It was written and performed at 432.
Yeah.
And they changed it to 440. I mean, talk about the word sacrilege. That's beyond sacrilege. But they changed it for a reason. It was not for no reason. Okay, it happens for a reason. So there's a lot of things when you have the perception and the patience to try to understand why and what happened. These things, these things are something that maybe some people don't care about that. They say, I don't care about that. I care about it. I'm very interested to know. I'm interested to know, like, where it came from, how it became what it is. And that is what I'm interested in knowing. I like to know what the origins are. So all of the things that have happened in history are very, I like to know the truth, not just what they told you in school, because that's not necessarily the truth. That's what the curriculum was that they force fed you. And just because your parents have a belief system, maybe a religion, maybe a tradition, they told you this is the way it is. You see, I come from the generation after the silent generation. So the silent generation, they just did what they were told. They followed along. They listened to what was told to them. They didn't ask questions.
Yeah.
Gen Z, they ask a lot of questions, which is a good thing. Maybe too many. But from my standpoint, I like to ask questions too. And as a journalist, music journalist, I'll ask questions, and I'll ask the painful ones too. Some of them are, hard questions, like, talking with, Artemis Pyle from Lynyrd Skynyrd about the plane crash. I asked him the questions. I talked with Uli John Roth from the Scorpions about the Jimi Hendrix guitar that his wife, ended up with, that he played. So these are the kind of things I'm interested in, because I want to know the truth. And I don't have a problem asking some questions. And it may ruffle some feathers sometimes, but it's like, I'm just, as a fan, I'd like to know. And as a person that is curious, I'd like to know. But here's the thing that you didn't know about me. I'll just pinpoint it. When I was 8 years old, I can remember a lot of things. I'd like to forget some things. When I was 8 years old, I was in my family's house and I was playing, because that's what you do when you're 8, right? You're not working at a job yet or quite doing stuff. You're still a child, right? So I'm playing around and going through some relatives' stuff in a box or something. They said, "Here, go play in this room. Here's some stuff. Go have at it." I found a newspaper from New York. It was from before when I was born, a month before. It was a cover of a newspaper, and it had a picture of JFK.
Yeah.
The day after he was shot, on the newspaper, a month before I was born. And it had a hole in his throat, and his eyes were open like this. He looked like that. And there was a hole in his throat. And then I was 8 years old. So this image stuck in my head. I couldn't shake that image. And then years later, I'm like, I keep hearing about this getting shot in the back of the head stuff, like a magic bullet, hit 8 people and ping pong sideways and hit a guy in the leg, hit someone in the head, like, what? I don't know if I can go with that, but that's what people wanted to believe. They were told to believe that. They were told that, this is what you should believe. But there's some very, very fascinating stuff with that. And not to go down that rabbit hole, but that's just one example of trying to understand, look at the information so you can comprehend what's going on. And I think part of the problem is we were at a time where we did not have the technology. Like they can do forensic technology where they can do DNA testing nowadays, where back in the day, they couldn't. Like they can solve the Jack the Ripper case or other cases where, they can go and take some DNA that they had for years and now they can maybe figure out something. I think technology has advanced, and that's a positive thing to be able to, do some type of reconnaissance, some type of, deeper dive in the information. So I think there's some advantage to that. But at the same time, some of the stuff you may not want to know the truth. I mean, some of it is dark from history. And the victors have always been the ones that wrote history. So we're not being told, we're being told a version of the truth, which means that they're making it up. To make it, for example, is it something that God wrote in his handwriting? Did God write it or did men write it?
Definitely.
If men touched it, what happens in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll put a little bit more of this in there. You got this guy in the kitchen. Oh, they're following a recipe. Oh, we'll put more beer in it. We'll put more whiskey in it. They're not sticking to the same program. I mean, he put like half a bottle of whiskey in there, and this other person, the female that was in the kitchen, she didn't put all that whiskey. So in other words, it's never consistent. There's never going to be that. No. So we're looking at a doctored version of reality that has been told to us. And why is there a hole in JFK's throat when they're talking about he's got shot in the back of the head? I mean, like, really? Okay. Well, you can believe that if you want. I'm just looking at the damn photo of him on the front of the newspaper that they already released. And they've done this with other things. They've done this with a lot of other history where there was things in the newspaper. And, you try to assess what is the truth, what's the information. And that's where I find there's some very fascinating things in our history of our planet. And, the colonizers and the people that are in power, they always seem to control, because they're controllers. The last thing I'll leave you with is in Puebla, Mexico. I've played in Puebla, a beautiful city in Mexico. I love it there. I love Mexico. And the people are wonderful in Latin America, and Mexico's incredible. Family-oriented people, beautiful people. They love music. They're very supportive, very, enthusiastic. It's incredible. In Puebla, Mexico, they have a pyramid, or you call it pyramidas. It's one of the biggest pyramids in the world.
Yeah.
But they haven't uncovered it. Why? Well, you'd think in Mexico, people would be like, from their history, Aztecs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Maya. This is Azteca. This is, Quetzalcoatl. This is like, that's their history. But what happened is they were conquered. So they put a church they built a church on top of the pyramid. So they will not excavate the pyramid because they built a church on it. Why in the world would they not just take the church, pick it up, move it over here, uncover that pyramid?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, but they won't do it. They haven't done it. Yeah. And to me, that's like, it's sacrilege to not uncover the pyramid. But to some people, especially religious people of that church, it's sacrilege to move the church. They built a freaking church on a pyramid. What were these people thinking? You know, but that's the way I think. That's not the way everyone else thinks. So, but that's what I'm sharing. So now you have a perspective of, you know, that's how I want to write songs. You know, I'm not trying to copy others. I don't want to be someone else. Why would I want to do that? I'm not good at being someone else. They're much better at being themselves than I am at trying to copy them. I'm better at being me. But I'll leave you with this quote from Mark Twain. It's easier to fool people rather than convincing them that they've been fooled.
Yeah. That's true.
I just want to know what's really going on. And if I can't know that, that's what I'm going to seek anyway. I have to know.
Yeah.
I just have to. I'm compelled to want to know that information. So for me, I like details. I like a lot of reading. I like a lot of learning. I'm always a student and always learning. I'm not the person that thinks he knows everything about everything. I don't know anything about anything. I'm trying to learn more and become more wise. There's a lot of people that have smarts in certain areas. They might be book smart. They may not be street smart. But you can always learn something, even if you're really good at something. So I think that as a singer, I can learn. As a writer, I can learn. As a music journalist, I can learn. And as a person who has a great appreciation for culture, for tradition, for history, I respect that. And some things that we were taught is tradition. We're told to believe that tradition. When it's a person's tradition, it's like, well, just substantiate it with some proof. Like, where's the proof? And that's all I want to see. So I want to know about the proof. Show it to me in writing, even if it's the Dead Sea Scrolls. That would constitute proof, because you can't go back in time and talk to those people.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You need to come over so I can get to meet you. That would be great.
I'd love to have a chance to tour over in the UK, and that would be a dream come true. I mean, I used to date someone in the UK. I used to go to the UK, and but I never had the real opportunity to play there. I played other countries. I played in other countries in Europe, and the last one I did was Romania in 2023, a stadium. Played with with Simon Wright and a bunch of great people, Joe Hoekstra, Phil X, Gilby Clark, Ripper Owens, Jeff Soto, Teddy Andreadis. So we had a great experience there. Then I played I did a tour in Poland. I did a tour in Czech Republic. Played in Germany at a few festivals. It's been a while. Played in Denmark at a great festival there. Played in Holland or Netherlands. Quite a number did a tour there. And there's still other countries that I would certainly love to. Austria would certainly love to come back to Europe and play. So I think Britain would be a no-brainer. I mean, that for me is like. But the real challenge these days, and I think this is a challenge for musicians that don't really get it because they come from a different generation. They think, okay, well, the way to make it is you got to get on a record label, you got to get a manager, you got to get all the stuff, as opposed to DIY, and getting it funded. It's like all that happens when you get a business arrangement is you owe somebody money. So that's the business arrangement. Someone's putting out the money and funding it, and you have to pay it back. That's what a record deal is. And you hope that they'll do promotion. If they got 50 other bands, you hope that they're going to promote your band and give you tour support. Well, good luck. In some cases, there's artists where they DIY it and they make a lot more money doing it themselves. They make money off of everything they sell, and they are very smart and they do a great job. So for me, it's working with someone who believes in what I do and wants to have me play over there. But I think there's a great opportunity to play there, but the thing that's the reality that I'm trying to speak of is you're not playing to baby boomers or Gen X people. You're playing to millennials, and you're playing to Generation Z, Gen Z, and there's also Gen Alpha. That's the next one that happens after 2013. So they're not quite old enough to go to concerts, maybe to start going, but that's what's down the pipe. That's what's coming next. So you're playing to those folks. So it's kind of like, if you're the Rolling Stones. Well, how old are the Rolling Stones?
They're old.
What's old?
Yeah, they're in their late 70s, aren't they? If not
Or
older.
80? I think
Yeah,
Mick Jagger's 80. I
yeah,
think. I
it
don't know.
could be.
What do I know?
Yeah,
What do I know? But in any event, they're playing. Who's their audience? Who is the Rolling Stones audience?
yeah,
Well, I'm sure there's some
yeah,
people that are 70 or 80 or more that love them, but who's going to the concerts? Who's buying the tickets?
yeah. It's all the younger
It's
ones.
people that are younger. Probably a lot of
Yeah,
Gen X. You probably have some baby boomers. Sure, that's the Rolling
yeah,
Stones. That's their generation. But you have people that are from the younger generation buying the tickets. So that's where the rubber meets the road. You have to be able to make that connection with those younger generations. So your
yeah,
music, your appeal, your marketing, your everything, social media, all of that. You have to reach those other generations. So for me, how many of the people from Gen Z or millennials know about the music that I wrote with Anthrax or that
yeah,
that era? So
yeah,
that's part of the challenge. I understand that, and that comes down to doing a new band versus having a band that does tribute music or playing old hits. That's why
yeah,
bands that play the older music, they can go out there and have play their old hits, and people come to it. But if you're playing for Gen Z and millennials, well, you certainly better have a draw. You certainly better have something that appeals to them to get them there. And really,
yeah,
people relate to their generation. People relate to, you relate to music from your generation, they relate to music from theirs. So I
yeah,
guess the real question of the hour is, how do you become the music of their generation? You know what I mean? And some
yeah,
bands do that. Some
yeah,
bands are already established. They can go and do that. I mean, Alice Cooper
yeah,
can do that because he's already Alice Cooper, and he already, has that established presence, so and you can get the gigs. So
yeah.
that's really what it comes down to. So if we got someone in Europe that we can do some shows with, I'm ready to rock, man. I'm still firing on all
Excellent.
16 cylinders. We're ready to bring the twin turbo and start rocking
Yeah,
over in Britain and Europe. So anyway, thank you so
brilliant.
much for your time, and didn't mean to talk
No,
your ear
thanks
off.
for your time. I
But hey,
appreciate it.
if you want to talk about deep topics, that's my area.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
A pleasure, Dale. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. ta